So what if the first 12 years of your life, like your entire childhood, basically,
Right.
what if those years were meticulously designed to make you highly useful, but entirely dependent?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a heavy thought.
Right. Just think about that for a second. Because what if everything you were taught about, hard work or being a good citizen.
Being successful.
Exactly. What if all of that was actually just a blueprint for keeping you on this treadmill that you can never quite step off of?
It's a pretty provocative way to look at it.
It really is. And if you look at the architecture of how we're taught to operate, the focus is entirely on how to earn.
While deliberately obscuring how to own.
Yes, exactly. And that brings us to our mission for today's deep dive. We are unpacking a really fascinating audiobook transcript today called The 7 Wealth Secrets.
Which is just a brilliant source text, honestly.
It really is. And our primary focus today, the thing we really want to drill into for you listening, is breaking down the actual practical systems required to build assets.
Right. How to actually step out of that consumer cycle we're all stuck in.
Yeah, and reclaim control of your time. Because, we should be clear up front, this is not some get-rich-quick scheme.
Definitely not. No day trading tips here.
Right. We're not talking about, visualizing sports cars or anything like that.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. It's a structural rewiring of how you view money, how you view labor, and your time.
And, to rewire that structure, you really have to look at the operating system you're currently running on.
Right. You can't just install new software on a corrupted drive.
Exactly. And that corruption, if we want to call it that, it really begins in the classroom.
The classroom. Yeah, the source goes really hard on this idea of unlearning what school taught you.
It does. The premise here argues that formal education basically took our attention and our direction.
For over a decade.
Right. For 12 years or more.
Right.
We're trained to, follow instructions, wait for the bell to ring, compete for praise from the teacher.
The authority figure.
Yeah. We basically learned to be very dependable workers.
But, and this is the kicker, what gets completely left out is the mechanics of money.
Completely omitted. Compounding, asset acquisition, the actual mathematics of debt, it's just not there.
Which is wild when you think about it. But the source makes the point that if you build an industrial system designed to produce manageable workers, well, there's no urgent incentive to produce financially literate owners.
Right, because financially literate people are really hard to manage.
They are. It's like spending years reading the user manual for this incredibly complex machine.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Right, you study it, you know all the parts,
Yeah.
and then you graduate and realize, wait, I'm the machine, and someone else is holding the remote.
Oh, man. That is exactly it. You're the machine.
But, I have to ask, because the source calls this a theft, unlearning the classroom, the first theft, isn't that, a bit harsh?
You think it's too cynical?
Well, yeah. Teaching kids algebra and reading comprehension isn't some grand conspiracy to keep people poor, right? It's just school.
I get that.
Yeah.
But the text clarifies it's not necessarily some smoky room conspiracy.
Okay.
It's more like the evolution of an industrial model that just hasn't changed because it serves the existing economic structure perfectly.
It's a polished theft.
Exactly. It blends right in. We were taught history, right? But we weren't taught the history of currency, like how fiat money loses value over time.
Which completely changes the math of saving.
Exactly. Or we were taught advanced calculus, but almost never the applied math of compounding.
Yeah, or how debt terms and marginal tax brackets are going to shape your life way more than knowing, the capital of every state.
Right. So you learn effort, but you don't learn allocation. You learn how to be busy and compliant.
Yeah, and security gets framed as this thing an institution grants you. A university accepts you, a company hires you, a bank approves you for a loan.
You basically spend your whole life looking upward at these gatekeepers, just waiting to be chosen.
Waiting for permission. But wealth doesn't grow upward through permission, it grows sideways through ownership.
That's a great way to put it. And because we're so conditioned to wait for that approval, we step into adulthood and walk straight into what the source calls the salary cage.
The salary cage, this is where society points us, right? Income is the ultimate goal.
Right. Get the degree, get the job, secure the raise. But the core argument here is that income does not create wealth.
It only creates possibility.
Exactly. Income alone is just fuel. The salary is actually a very dangerous illusion because it feels like an endpoint.
When it should be the starting material. But pushback here. Telling someone that a high salary is a cage is a really tough sell.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's the most legible, predictable safety net people have. You get your W-2, taxes are withheld automatically, you get your little annual performance review.
It feels very safe.
Right, it's highly measurable. That predictability is why society cheers for a high salary.
But that predictability is exactly what makes the cage so comfortable. And the source points out, as your salary increases, the cage just gets better decorated.
Ah, the decorated cage.
Yeah. I mean, the fundamental trap of the W-2 is that your income is tied entirely to your physical time and your effort.
And it's taxed at the absolute highest possible rates.
Right. You earn an extra 10 grand, half of it might just vanish to taxes, and the rest.
Well,
it gets quickly absorbed by lifestyle inflation.
Lifestyle creep. You lease a slightly better car, you move to a nicer apartment with like a rooftop pool.
Exactly. Outwardly, your life looks like it's expanding. But inwardly, your dependence on that specific employer is just getting deeper and deeper.
You've basically just created a more expensive loop.
A very expensive loop.
I see this constantly. You know, someone gets a promotion to director, their pay bumps up 20%, and suddenly they feel this intense psychological need to match their lifestyle to their new title.
They have to perform the title.
Right. It's like they treat money as this fluid that just runs straight out of the faucet, through their hands, and down the drain. Maybe they catch a little to drink, but the rest is just gone.
Which is the exact opposite of wealth building. The text argues that to build wealth, you have to treat money like an army of workers.
Yes. Every single dollar needs an assignment.
Exactly. Some go to defense, some go to acquire skills. But the most important ones go to buy ownership, buy assets.
Because without those assignments, the source says money just obeys your mood.
And money guided by emotional impulse rarely survives.
Right.
There's also this identity distortion that the decorated cage causes.
Yeah.
If every ounce of your self-worth and your financial stability is tied to your earned income, a threat to your job isn't just a career issue.
It's existential terror.
Yes. A bad quarter at the firm or a difficult new boss, it threatens your entire ability to maintain that elaborate lifestyle you've built.
Which is why the text highlights that you can earn six figures, like $300,000 a year, and still be fundamentally weak, economically speaking.
Yeah, at the end of the month, there's a ton of motion, but no mass.
Motion, but no mass. I love that phrase. So to escape that dynamic, you don't need to hate work.
No, not at all.
You just have to change the purpose of work. The salary becomes the fuel, and the sole purpose of that fuel is to buy the next critical component, which are assets.
And this requires a really brutal correction in how we classify things.
Engines versus trophies.
Exactly. Most of us know the basic definition, right?
Yeah.
An asset puts money in your pocket, a liability takes it out.
Right, rich dad, poor dad basics.
Yeah. But the trap lies in the faux assets, the things that look like wealth but are actually just sophisticated liabilities.
Or fees.
Trophies, a luxury vehicle, a massive primary residence that stretches your debt-to-income ratio to the absolute breaking point, a designer watch.
These require maintenance, insurance, property taxes, security. They pull cash away from you constantly.
And the psychological difficulty here is deep. We are conditioned from childhood to chase those visible rewards.
We want the applause. We want the gold star.
Exactly. Buying real assets requires ignoring the applause entirely. Because, as the source elegantly states, lifestyle speaks quickly, wealth moves quietly.
Wealth moves quietly. But, okay, let me play devil's advocate here on the necessity part.
Sure.
The text says necessity doesn't change category. So, my car is a necessity to get to work. My shelter is a necessity. If I have to buy them anyway, isn't it overly pedantic to insist I view them strictly as liabilities? Why is that distinction so crucial?
It's really not pedantic at all. It's actually the ultimate defense against emotional marketing.
How so?
Because if you don't accurately classify a necessary liability, you will justify overspending on it under the guise of investing.
Oh, right. Like investing in a new car.
Exactly. The world is full of companies selling monthly payments disguised as adulthood or disguised as status.
Yeah.
If you believe your car is an asset, you'll convince yourself that a $60,000 luxury SUV is a smart financial move.
Yeah.
But if you correctly identify it as a depreciating liability that's going to cost you in premium gas, expensive parts, and rapid value loss, you might look at it differently.
You might just buy a reliable used vehicle that fulfills the necessity and then free up the rest of that capital.
Right. One person is buying urgency and status. The other person is buying the removal of future pressure.
Buying the removal of future pressure, that is such a powerful reframe.
It really is.
Because that is exactly what a real asset does. A cash-flowing property, a dividend-paying index fund, intellectual property. Every real asset you acquire is a piece of your future that you no longer have to sell your labor fund.
They are engines, not trophies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But owning assets on paper is great, right? Your net worth looks good.
Sure.
But the source takes it a step further. It says these assets need to actually do something. They need to flow, which brings us to the physics of wealth.
Right. Cash flow and compounding. Because paper value, your net worth, it can be incredibly seductive.
Oh, yeah. You check your estimate on your house and it went up 20% and you feel rich.
You feel wealthy.
Yeah.
But paper appreciation does not pay for groceries.
It doesn't pay the monthly bills.
Exactly. If your daily existence is still entirely reliant on your physical labor to generate the cash required for your baseline expenses, you are still fully exposed.
You need a stream of movement.
Yes, you need cash flow. It's a stream of movement that returns from the field with more than it left with.
And cash flow, it fundamentally alters human psychology. It's not just the utility of having an extra $500 a month from a rental property.
This is what those dollars represent.
Right. When your survival is no longer inextricably linked to a single source, a single employer, the panic dissipates.
You finally get breathing room.
Breathing room, yeah. Your cortisol drops. You start making decisions based on long-term strategy rather than just short-term survival.
And that breathing room changes your whole posture in the world. Freedom rarely arrives as this cinematic moment where you flip your desk and walk out.
Like in the movies.
Right. It actually arrives as fewer moments of panic. It's realizing that a portion of your life is already funded by capital working for you, which then brings in the relentless math of compounding.
Ah, compounding. The eighth wonder of the world, right?
Right. Everyone nods at it, but very few people actually execute it. The mechanics are simple enough. It's just gains on gains, but people fail at it constantly.
Why do you think that is? The text says it's not a lack of access.
No, it's a lack of character and patience. Compounding looks incredibly unimpressive at first.
It's like planting a seed, right? The early gains are just seeds, they aren't celebrations.
Exactly. The initial phase of compounding is an exercise in enduring invisibility. You save, you invest, the interest applies, you reinvest the dividends, and for the first 5 years, the graph looks basically flat.
And in our culture, optimized for, fast shipping, instant streams, immediate dopamine, that flat curve feels like failure.
It does. People interrupt the math. They dig up the seed to see if the roots are growing. They see a 10% gain, cash it out, and buy a vacation to show their neighbors they're doing well.
And then they wonder why they never get a tree.
Exactly. You keep uprooting it.
And the scary part is, compounding works against you just as relentlessly. Through consumer debt, lifestyle creep, inflation, time multiplies something. If you don't direct it, it moves against you.
Time doesn't care. It just applies the multiplier. A 20% interest rate on a rolling credit card balance will decimate your future with the exact same mathematical certainty that an index fund grows it.
Which is terrifying. And this slow math of compounding leads to a pretty sobering realization about human labor. It has strict limits.
Very strict. You only have 24 hours in a day. Your energy depletes. So if time is moving relentlessly and your effort has a hard ceiling, you have to bridge that gap.
You need multipliers. You need leverage.
Leverage is the great accelerator. Wealth really grows when your effort pairs with leverage. Capital, technology, media, code, other people's time.
But the text mentions a dark twin of leverage.
Yes, because most people are introduced to the consumptive version of leverage way before the productive version.
Like credit cards, student loans, those buy now, pay later buttons at checkout.
Exactly. Consumptive leverage pulls tomorrow's resources into today to consume something that loses value. It guarantees a poorer tomorrow.
While productive leverage uses debt or capital to acquire an asset that generates more value than the cost of the debt.
Right. It guarantees a stronger tomorrow. Leverage is basically just multiplication. It takes your underlying behavioral pattern and makes it much louder.
Okay, but pushback from the listener here. Leverage sounds great in theory, but it also sounds like a fast track to going bankrupt if you mess up.
It absolutely can be.
Right. If I borrow capital to buy a business and the economy tanks, my debt doesn't care. The payments are still due. How does a listener balance this need for leverage with the reality of risk?
This is where the seventh principle comes in. Protect the downside. This is non-negotiable.
The armor of protection.
Yes. Protecting the downside is the only way you survive long enough for compounding to actually work.
Because intelligent people lose fortunes all the time, right?
All the time. The text details why this happens. They experience early success, and they start to feel exempt from the basic rules. They mistake a bull market for their own genius.
Oh man, ego is so dangerous there.
It is. They overborrow, they eliminate their cash buffers to maximize returns, and then the market turns.
So protection means what exactly?
It means maintaining liquidity, holding cash reserves that, yeah, technically might lose to inflation, but they act as an insurance policy against forced liquidation.
Right, so you aren't forced to sell your stocks at the absolute bottom of a crash just to pay your mortgage.
Exactly. The text has a great quote for this. Protection is how disciplined people remain in the game long enough for their sound decisions to matter.
I love that, staying in the game. But okay, all these concepts, right? Assets, leverage, compounding, downside protection, it's all great theory.
Very theoretical so far.
Right, but the real challenge is translating this into a daily Tuesday routine. Like you're tired, your car needs new tires, you just want to order expensive takeout.
The gap between theory and execution.
Yes, that gap is where most people die financially. So we really need to focus now on the execution part of the source material, designing these quiet systems.
This is the most practical part of the deep dive, because inspiration is cheap.
So cheap. You read a book, you feel fired up for 3 days.
And then you go right back to your old habits.
Yeah.
Structure, on the other hand, is costly to set up at first, but it is priceless later.
So what exactly is a quiet system? It sounds, I don't know, stealthy.
A quiet system means your environment does the heavy lifting for you. It relies heavily on behavioral economics, specifically friction.
Okay, friction. Tell me more about that.
Well, if your paycheck lands in your primary checking account and your strategy is to manually log in at the end of the month, see what's left, and then transfer it to an investment account, you will fail.
The friction is totally backward.
Exactly. You are relying on willpower.
And there's that quote from the text I highlighted. I just love this. If your plan depends on what is left at the end of the month, you do not have a plan. You have hope wearing a spreadsheet.
Hope wearing a spreadsheet. It's so painfully true.
It is. Because unplanned money in a checking account basically becomes public property.
Right. Convenience takes a cut, impulse takes a cut, a targeted Instagram ad takes a cut.
So to fix the friction, we need automation.
Automated savings, automated investing, and expenses categorized without emotional voting power. You have to invert the friction. Make the right move requires zero energy, and make the wrong move incredibly slow and annoying.
So mechanically, how does a listener do that?
Mechanically, you set up direct deposits so that 20%, or whatever your number is, of your income is routed to a completely different banking institution before you even see it.
A different institution entirely, not just a different checking account at the same bank.
Exactly. A bank where you don't have the app on your phone and you don't carry the debit card in your wallet. The investment happens automatically. And if you want to pull that money out for a consumer purchase, it requires a multi-day transfer delay.
That is brilliant. You're building an environment that enforces your long-term goals when your short-term willpower collapses.
Because it will collapse.
It always does. But here's a question. How does a listener set up these systems, these automated savings and expense cuts, without feeling like they're living a life of absolute deprivation?
Right, the fear of the monk lifestyle.
Exactly. Eating ramen, never going out, just agonizing over every penny. That doesn't sound like freedom.
It's not. And the expert source clarifies that performative minimalism is not the goal here. There's no trophy for looking the most deprived.
So what's the goal of the system then?
The goal is to establish a baseline that makes you financially, as the source puts it, dangerous.
Living dangerous. I like that framing. What does a dangerous baseline mean mechanically?
It means keeping your structural overhead, your rent, your car payment, your debt obligations, low enough that an employer cannot buy your silence cheaply.
Wow.
A dangerous employee is one who doesn't need the job to survive the next 30 days. It gives you actual options and leverage in life.
So it's not about cutting out the latte.
No. You spend aggressively on what genuinely supports your health, your ability, or your meaning. Yeah. But you ruthlessly cut what exists only to signal status.
Right. A clean system exposes the truth. It shows you how much of your spending is actually just emotional leakage.
Emotional leakage, exactly. Spending just to numb the exhaustion of a job you resent.
And this system isn't just for money, right? The source talks about the calendar as a system too.
Oh, absolutely. Time is upstream from money. If your calendar is a chaotic mess, Your finances probably will be too.
Because time spent doom scrolling envy on social media is time you are not spending building a skill or reviewing your numbers.
Right. When you combine a low-friction financial system with a fiercely protected calendar, you generate this massive surplus of bandwidth. You're no longer just playing defense all day.
Which means you finally have the bandwidth to play offense.
Exactly.
And playing offense brings us to the next section. Scaling your value, building beyond the paycheck.
Right? Broadening the field. Because the quiet systems we just talked about, they preserve and compound what you have. But true acceleration requires scaling skills outside of a single employer's system.
Because a paycheck is basically compensation for being useful inside someone else's system, meaning your upside is capped.
And it's permission-based.
Yeah.
To truly scale value, you have to look at your core competencies and detach them from your time.
But there's a big trap here, right? The text calls it scattered frenzy.
Yes, the 5-week side hustles trap.
Right. It's like someone drives for a rideshare app, they have a drop shipping store they barely look at, they try to day trade crypto on their lunch break, and they sell crafts online.
They are exhausted. Their attention is totally fractured, and none of it actually generates meaningful momentum. That is scattered fear disguised as ambition.
So what does true ambition look like according to the source?
True ambition is picking a lane with real economic weight and staying with it. It's finding ways to turn your specific skill into a product. A consulting practice, a piece of software, equity, digital assets.
It's the difference between carrying buckets of water and taking the time to build an aqueduct.
I love that analogy.
Right. The buckets pay you today. If you drive a rideshare, you get cash tonight. But if you stop driving, the cash stops.
The bucket is empty.
Exactly. But building an aqueduct, coding an app, writing a book, creating a course, it takes immense upfront labor and pays absolutely zero today.
But once it's built, it pays for a lifetime. The water flows with zero marginal cost.
And the only reason you can survive the timeline of building that aqueduct is because your quiet system is defending your baseline.
Goo. Exactly. They connect directly. This brings us right back to the salary cage segment.
Right.
Having a clean financial system gives you the power to negotiate with self-respect. Desperation is incredibly expensive.
So true. If you have no cash reserves and massive monthly overhead, you will accept poor terms. You'll underprice your consulting, you'll take a lower salary because you literally can't afford to walk away.
But the stronger your reserves, the stronger your voice when negotiating your value.
Yeah.
The ability to walk away gives you structural power.
Which completely changes your trajectory. But, as that trajectory changes and your income scales and the system works, a new battle emerges.
The hidden battle.
Yes, the psychological warfare of wealth. This is the inner game. Because you can master the math, you can build the aqueduct, but financial skill without emotional control will eventually self-destruct.
Absolutely. Money exposes your underlying psychology. Because spending, at its core, is primarily social.
Social spending, buying to belong.
Right. Buying to numb out, buying to keep up with your peers. Emotional control really matters on the downside, obviously, to prevent panic selling.
Sure.
But ironically, the source points out that emotional control is even more critical on the upside.
The upside sabotage, I found this part so fascinating. You stick to the plan, your assets compound, you have a phenomenal year, but then the ego wakes up.
The ego whispers that the strict rules of your quiet system were only necessary when you were broke. You start confusing a hot streak with permanent mastery.
You loosen your standards. You upgrade your lifestyle precisely when that capital could be securing generational wealth. Because you want people to see that you've won.
And escaping that ego trap requires adopting a completely new psychological framework. The text calls it the identity of someone who knows.
The identity of someone who knows. What does that identity look like?
It's quiet. It's independent. It values structural strength over looking successful. It doesn't need to wear its net worth on its wrist.
But stepping into that identity, the source talks about a profound friction point here, the guilt.
Yes, the guilt of leaving old patterns and old environments that normalized financial strain. This is the unseen tax of upward mobility.
I really reflected on this point, that a calm financial life often requires disappointing people who benefited from your lack of boundaries.
It's a hard truth. If you originate from an environment where living paycheck to paycheck is normal, where bonding happens over complaining about debt, your sudden discipline feels like an indictment of their choices.
If you stop going to the expensive dinners you can't really afford, or you refuse to finance a luxury car to match your friends, they won't applaud your financial maturity.
Yeah, they'll call you cheap,
Yeah.
boring. They might even distance themselves. You have to develop the psychological callus to withstand that social friction.
Because, as the text brilliantly brings it all together, you do not rise to your financial intentions.
You fall to your financial identity.
You fall to your financial identity. If deep down you still view yourself as a consumer who deserves a treat because life is hard, the compounding math and the leverage systems will just be eroded by your old habits.
The ultimate goal here isn't just a number in a bank account.
No.
Wealth, in its truest form, is stored control. Money is stored choice. It is the power to say no to a toxic work environment or a bad contract without your heart rate even spiking. It's the elimination of panic.
The elimination of panic. That is such a profound way to sum up this whole journey we've been on today.
It really is the core of it.
So just to briefly recap what we've unpacked from this incredible source, we talked about unlearning the classroom conditioning that made us dependable but financially illiterate.
Right.
Escaping the salary cage by redefining assets, buying engines instead of trophies, and ignoring the applause.
Relying on the physics of wealth, cash flow, and the slow, relentless math of compounding.
Protecting the downside while using productive leverage, and then, practically, building those quiet automatic systems so that hope isn't wearing a spreadsheet.
And finally, mastering the inner game, the emotional urge to perform for others, and adopting the identity of someone who knows.
It's a complete structural rewiring, but before we sign off, you had a really interesting thought that builds on all this. Something not strictly in the text, but a kind of extrapolation of it.
Yeah, I've been pondering this because we've talked entirely about individual liberation today, right? But imagine what happens to a macro environment, to a community or a society, when a critical mass of people actually adopt this quiet system.
Oh, wow.
If millions of people lower their baseline dependence, automate their savings, and just refuse to buy the faux asset trophies, what happens? The endless machinery of consumerism stalls.
It has to evolve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When millions of people no longer need to be compliant cogs in a broken system just to survive, what kind of world do they choose to build instead? They have the stored choice to build enterprises that solve actual human problems rather than just extracting margin.
That is the real power of the systems we discussed today. It's not just individual wealth, it's societal resilience.
Absolutely.
So to you listening, the next time you look at your bank statement or your calendar, don't just view it as a scorecard. Look at it as a blueprint of your current identity.
And if that blueprint is currently building a decorated cage, you now know the mechanics to dismantle it.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Start rewiring your system today, and we'll catch you on the next one.